The Toronto Blue Jays have still not signed that left fielder that we've talked so much about. We've gone over two of the options. Today, let's go over the third.
You are Locked On Blue Jays, your daily Toronto Blue Jays podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome back to Locked On Blue Jays. Thank you for making Locked On Blue Jays your first listen every day. We are free and available wherever you get your podcasts and on YouTube. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
You can start the season with a big return on FanDuel. New customers can place a $5 bet. You'll get started with $150 in bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet. Visit FanDuel.com to get started. As always, I'm Braden Wasco. He's Carter First. You can find us on Twitter, Braden5 Wasco, Carter First too, as well on Instagram and TikTok. Got some new followers in there. Thank you guys for that. At Locked On Blue Jays. If you haven't already, or you're new here to YouTube or you're listening somewhere else, make sure you head over to the YouTube page. You drop a subscription. It helps us out. It's free to do so. Keeps you guys updated on all the latest Blue Jays information. You'll get live streams, podcast, shorts, videos, sort of everything. It's, like I said, made it the hub. Make sure you head over there as well. Discord link is down in the description. It is updated. We'll try to be a little bit more active on there coming up here in this offseason over the little bit of a break. Hit that. Come talk Blue Jays with us whenever you guys want to. You can hit that Discord link down in the description. Carter, lots to get into today, including a guy that for the life of me, I don't know if I'll ever spell his name right, and that's Jurickson Profar. I don't know why. It just doesn't happen. And I talk about this guy all the time. Spelling is hard, apparently. Apparently, I did not go through third grade. Also, we'll get into his contract, what that's going to look like. How does it fit with this Toronto Blue Jays team? We'll go over all of that. What are the odds? What are the likelihood of him actually being a Toronto Blue Jay? He's a guy that's been on our radar. We'll get into him. And then Andres Gimenez had some quotes talking to the media about coming to Toronto. So we'll get into that in the third segment. Not anything crazy, but it's pretty interesting to see the outlook of players who are now coming here and what they think of the city and the people and everything like that. Carter, let's just jump into it, my man. What do you think of Jurickson Profar?
I'm going to start with just the position that this guy plays. If you've been listening to this podcast whatsoever, like at all throughout the offseason, honestly, even in September, you'll know that all we've really been talking about is the need for a corner outfielder. Right field, left field. George Springer can play left field or right field. That doesn't really matter. And again, is there really that big of a difference between right field and left field? For the grand majority of players, not really. It's not going to change too much. So we talked a lot about Teoscar Hernandez, talked a lot about Anthony Santander. Those are the two bigger fish in this free agency. But there's a little bit of an intriguing piece here that feels a little bit more like a Toronto Blue Jays signing just because of the price tag, and that is Jurickson Profar. This guy's had a weird career, to say the least. Just going starting at 2020, from 2020 to 2022, played for the San Diego Padres, just really wasn't that good. Hit like 230 to 240 his entire tenure there over those 3 years. Nothing too crazy happening. And then he went to the Colorado Rockies and somehow got even worse playing at Coors Field. During then, he slashed 236 with a 316 on base and a 364 slugging for an OPS of 680. And they actually ended up releasing Jurickson Profar that season. Goes back the Padres on a minor league deal, re-signs with the Padres in 2024. And that is when all of the magic happened with Jurickson Profar. He had a 1-year, $1 million deal with $1.5 million in incentives. And we'll go over the stats after a while. But obviously, this was one of the best bargains in all of baseball for 2024. You just don't really see Jurickson Profar, just any MLB player, being in their 11th MLB season and all of a sudden just being a completely different player than they have been throughout their entire career.
Yeah, it was shocking to see. Like, it was one of those guys that you sort of knew was in the league for a while, but you never gave a second look. And I think that's what happened with a lot of teams here in the MLB. They didn't really give him a look because he never showed. He showed some promise, but it wasn't like this guy was going to jump off the page. And then all of a sudden, he comes out of nowhere and has his best season ever. I don't know. Like, it was a little bit, this is a weird one, Carter. Like, I sort of was going over stats. I was going over the money talks, sort of how he fits. And you're right. This feels like a very Toronto Blue Jays signing in the sense that it's a guy on the up, right? You don't know. There's a little bit of question marks around him. And that just, for some reason, the Blue Jays want to take shots at those guys. And the 11th season, Carter, that's one of those things that really gets me, because we always talk about if a guy plays really good for 5 years and has one bad season, You can't take the one bad season. But if a guy plays terrible or not great, and then he has one good season, do you take the one good season as, okay, maybe he's figured it out? Or do you take it as he's a bad player with one good season? This is the conundrum here that I think all of Toronto Blue Jays fans, when they look at Jurickson Profar, are going to have to ask themselves, what do you take out of this? Do you take it as he's a good player and he finally figured it out? Or is he a bad player who had a lucky season? Where do you sort of stand on here? Do you feel like he's a bad player with one good season, or he is a good player and he just is finally hitting his stride?
When you talk about players and having these type of seasons, it really depends on kind of what age they are for me a lot of the time. If you have a guy that is 22 playing in his 22, 23, 24 season, he gets significantly better in his 2020 or his 24 season, that makes more sense. Just having more MLB experience, obviously just growing into his own body. Obviously, when you're going into the league at 22, you're not fully built yet. You're still growing, still developing. When you're 31 years old and you've had a career, like just going over his career stats, I'll go over his career slash line, and then just go over his stat line from this last season. So for his career in the regular season, 245 average, a 726 OPS, nothing too crazy here. A slugging usually around just over 300. And then we'll just quickly go into what Jurickson Profar did in this last season. So he slashed 280 with a 380 OPS, a 459 slugging with an OPS of 839, 24 home runs, 84 RBIs, a WRC plus of 139, 158 hits, 29 doubles. Like when you go down the list of Jurickson Profar seasons, there's just nothing even remotely close to what happened here in 2024. But when you look at this season, you look at the Padres lineup, he was hitting 2 to 3 and very consistently. And you have a team with Fernando Tatis, Manny Machado, Bogarts, Jackson Merrill, obviously getting better throughout the season. Cronenworth is still over there. So there's a lot of players that are very good players in the Padres system. So he did have a very good 2024. You can't take that away from him whatsoever. When we talk about some of these bullpen arms, we talked about Jordan Romano all the time. We talked about Chad Green. We talked about, for example, Kevin Gausman. You look at what they've done throughout their careers, and you have this anomaly here. Normally what we were doing on this podcast is going back to kind of their career averages and what they've done throughout their career. So I think we have to kind of have the same thought process with a guy like Jurickson Profar. This reminds me a little bit of a Jorge Soler signing from kind of last season, where you have a guy that can hit for power, not traditionally as much for Jurickson Profar, but again, coming off of a good season, probably an overpaid candidate, and that's something that you're going to have to undertake the risk on if you're willing to sign Jurickson Profar to a 2, 3, 4, maybe even a 5-year contract.
Yeah, and we'll get into the contract in the second segment here, because this is where the money plays into it, right? How much can you afford to pay this guy if this is going to be your option? But Carter, just to preface all the contract talks, I want to get into his baseball savant from 2024, because it is a sea of red in the hitting category. He in 2024, he was a great hitter. Through and through, every statistic that you want to see in the red, which means in the higher percentile, was fantastic. Like it was like he woke up one day with superhuman powers. That's how drastic the change for Jurickson Profar was. So I don't know, Carter. I mean, like 92%, or sorry, let's go here. Slugging percentage, 72 percentile. Average exit velocity, 80 percentile. His barrel percentage is pretty average, 43 percentile. Hard hit percentage, 71st percentile. His sweet spot percentage, lower, 19th percentile, not great there. But his bat speed, average, 45. His squared up percentage, 69 percentile. Then his chase, whiff, K rate, and walk rate, all within the 88th to 90th percentile. It is just, it's an anomaly. And so that's why you've had these conversations before with friends, people that have listened to the podcast, and they come at us and say, why do you think Bo Bichette is going to have a bounce back year? Because I look at everything Bo Bichette has done, still a young player, still time to develop, and he's been excellent up until the past season. Now, looking at a guy like Jurickson Profar, you're exactly right, Carter. I think we have to look at it sort of in the same vein. He was not a good player for the majority of his career. Now, at the age of 31, decides to have a breakout year. And you're right. This exactly the guy I was going to bring up to a T was Jorge Soler. because this is the exact thing I think about. And that scares me here. And I know we've had the conversations about the Santanders, the Teoscar Hernandez, two more proven guys. Now, is Jurickson Profar your best option 3? Probably. I mean, if you're good, I think if you get to an option 3, you're taking a shot, right? And Jurickson Profar would be that shot. But when you have two options like Anthony Santander, who you can throw the bag at, or Teoscar Hernandez, who you could probably also overpay and still have and get somebody that you know is going to be good. That's the difference here. If you have to pay Jurickson Profar, which the contract we'll get into, and then he has a bad year, this is going to look terrible on the management team. And that's why, again, more into this in the next segment here, but I think the smart play would be to get one of those two guys. And I know, that's might be the most obvious thing I've ever said, is to sign Teoscar Hernandez or Anthony Santander. But they're still available. And I think if you want to get these guys, you're going to have to overpay right now. And I think that in the case of those two players, this would be the time to make that overpay. I don't think you want to overpay on a player like Jurickson Profar, who isn't as proven as those two guys.
Jurickson Profar shouldn't be in the same conversation as a guy like Teoscar Hernandez and Anthony Santander. No disrespect to Jurickson Profar, but you just look at these guys' floors. You look at the floor for Santander, you look at the floor for Teoscar Hernandez, 20 home run season, 20, 25 doubles probably in there. You got RBIs of 70 probably at a minimum. You look at Jurickson Profar, I mean, like, this guy could have a season where he's hitting 230, has an on base of 300, slugs 320, and then you're left with the 2024 Toronto Blue Jays offense again. So that's not exactly where you want to go back to. And just like looking at Jurickson Profar throughout his career and just looking at some of the career highs he had this season, career high in home runs, career high in RBIs, second highest season in doubles, career high in obviously over a significant period, not just a 20-game stretch, but career high in batting average, career high in OPS, slugging, second highest of his career. There's so many different things. Again, I'll go into it in the second segment as well. I have some other more advanced statistics that just clearly show that Jurickson Profar at least got a little bit lucky this season. I'm not going to say that he's a bad baseball player, but are you expecting to get 2024 Jurickson Profar in 2025? I think that you're a little bit naive if that's what you're thinking, if he's going to come to the Toronto Blue Jays.
Yeah, you're exactly right. And I think this is the time, as the excitement of the offseason hits us all, we have to take a step back sometimes and think, because we've seen Jurickson Profar's name thrown all over the place in Blue Jays land of it. Oh, this guy's an option. We should pursue him. And then it's like, wait a second, let's take a step back here and just think about our options, because throwing a bag at a player that could hit 230 isn't something this Blue Jays team can handle going into 2025. But in saying that, Carter, we got some more to get into. I know you want to get into some more advanced statistics. We got to go into the contract talks, and then we will talk under Gimenez comments surrounding the Toronto Blue Jays as well when we return right after this quick break.
Today's episode is sponsored by Rocket Money. Did Rocket Money help you find any subscriptions you forgot about or that you were paying for twice? That definitely happened to me. I have a few subscriptions that I didn't even realize I was still paying for with Rocket Money. They made it so easy to track them all down. It's like having a personal assistant for your finances. With Rocket Money, there's so many times that I apply for free emails, free trials, and then obviously life happens. You get distracted, and then you still have these trials going on. If you have automatic payments with your credit card, you need someone looking over this. You need someone or something looking over what your spending habits are, and Rocket Money does that for you. Rocket Money is a personal finance app that allows and helps you to find and cancel your unwanted subscriptions, monitors your spending, and helps lower your bills so you can grow your savings. It brings everything together in one place, whether it's subscriptions, your spending habits, or even the goals you want to hit this year. Rocket Money has over 5 million users and has saved over a total of $500 million in canceled subscriptions, saving members up to $740 a year when using all of these apps' premium features. You can cancel your unwanted subscriptions and reach your financial goals faster with Rocket Money. Go to rocketmoney.com/locked-on today. That's rocketmoney.com/locked-on. rocketmoney.com/locked-on. Today's episode is also sponsored by Select Quote. The World Series, the Super Bowl, the Olympics, the world's top athletes get to play in these top level sporting events thanks to one thing: teamwork. And teamwork can also help protect your financial legacy and your family's future. Select Quote's licensed insurance agents are the perfect teammates when shopping for customized and affordable life insurance. When we talk about the Toronto Blue Jays offseason, we always talk about their lack of strategy and lack of a game plan. We have seen time and time again how that affects the Toronto Blue Jays team's success for the following season. And that is exactly why you should have a plan for your family's financial future and your own financial future to set yourself up for the best chance at success with Select Quote. You have so much time to take care of yourself and to be the healthiest, the best version of you. Select Quote's exclusive policies can reward that effort. If you are in good health, they work with carriers that can get you same-day coverage for up to $5 million. No medical exam required. And these policies are more affordable than you think. You can get coverage for up to $1 million for as little as $20 per month. Get the right life insurance for you for less at selectquote.com/locked-on. That's selectquote.com/locked-on.
So, Carter, back segment 2, we got to talk about the contract that Jurickson Profar could get this offseason. Plus, how does he fit with the Toronto Blue Jays? So let's start. I know you have some advanced stats you want to get into, and I think let's start there. Let's paint a little picture before we really get into the contract talks.
So yeah, we talked a little bit about luck being involved in baseball. You see players get unlucky for a full season. You can see some players get lucky for an entire season. Tyler Fitzgerald from the San Francisco Giants, I think his batting average was like 0.6 higher than expected just because he was getting lucky in a full season. If that can take you from 230 to 290, that's a jump that a lot of MLB players are going to take. So it's not a bad thing, obviously, to be lucky. Definitely a bad thing to be unlucky, but you don't want to rely on somebody being lucky every single season for your baseball team's success. And one of the things that kind of show that Jurickson Profar maybe got a little bit lucky here, maybe just made massive strides, and maybe a little bit of a combination of both. But luck definitely played a little bit of a factor in this. Is he absolutely crushed off-speed pitches this season, like no other. Like just completely woke up one day and decided that he knew how to hit off-speed pitches. He hit 343 and slugged 526 off-speed in 2024. In 2024. In 2023. He hit 156 off-speed pitches and slugged 260 in that year. So again, obviously made some progressions, probably worked on that a lot in the offseason, but does your batting average go from 156 to 343 over one offseason just by, again, the work you put in the offseason? Max exit velocity, that's another thing. He was around 180 to 200, 190, 210. All of a sudden this year, 45th. Another thing that just kind of, it seems a little bit weird when you're looking at a guy like Jurickson Profar. Hard hit percentage up 12.6% this season. That's another thing that's not sustainable. Batting average on balls in play over 300. It's another thing. It's not sustainable. So you look at a lot of things with Jurickson Profar. And again, had a very good season. You don't want to take too much away from that, because if we would have had done the Toronto Blue Jays, definitely would not have complained whatsoever. That is the biggest value contract I've debatably ever seen, $1 million, and you get all of that offensive success. But if you're the Toronto Blue Jays and you're trying to get the fans to believe in your team, you're trying to kind of change the narrative a little bit with your team, signing Jurickson Profar as your major signing this offseason will help the team for 2025 for sure, but I don't know if that necessarily gets the fans back on board with the Toronto Blue Jays.
Well, and Carter, this is when you bring up the off-speed pitch thing. I think that's a great find. I don't know where you why you decided to look at that, but fantastic, because again, me and you've played ball our whole lives. We've coached ball. The one thing everybody tells you is you can become a good fastball hitter, right? You can understand where the fastballs are going to be. You know how they're going to move. You know how they're going to react. A lot of times, baseball players can't become unbelievable off-speed hitters. If you're bad at hitting off-speed, you might get better, but you're not going to take that kind of leap. You're not going to take that kind of jump. So when you talk about luck involved, luck is a big part to play when it comes to off-speed pitches, because it's about knowing the pitches, how much they break, how will they break, where the arm slot is. It's a very, very tough thing to all of a sudden in one season make that kind of change. If the difference was that he became a really good fastball hitter, I could totally understand that. That maybe would take the luck bit out of it for me. But this off-speed thing is completely throwing me for a loop. And I 100% agree with you. I think that this is a big problem if this is the Blue Jays' number one signing for the offseason. I would be very concerned. But now that we've gone over everything, let's get into the contract talks. I know you found a few. I found a few. I've pretty much what I've seen is around $20 to $25 million, depending on the year length. I've seen from anywhere between 2 and 5 years. I really there was only like 2 articles that said 5 years. I don't think he's signing for 5 years. I think it's going to be either a 2 or 3 year deal, and probably they had him projected the 25. I don't think he's going to make 25. I would be shocked if it even creeped up to the $21-22 million mark. I think that's a lot to pay for Jurickson Profar here. I know you have found some as well. Are you sort of in the same ballpark as me on these?
I found one from Spot Track, and I can't remember where I found the other one, but I have the numbers here. I have the Spot Track one is 3 year, $38 million. So obviously that's slightly over your 13 or 12 million a year, between 12 and 13 million. And there was also one that was 3 years, 45 million. So what I've been seeing overwhelmingly for the Jurickson Profar contract is, I would guess, between 12 and 18 million. So that's kind of the ballpark I see this being in. Does Jurickson Profar ultimately make the Toronto Blue Jays better though in 2025? I mean, looking at the options, I think a lot of players could make the Toronto Blue Jays better in 2025, especially from the outfield. I think if we threw you out in the outfield, it might be a little bit better than how we were in 2024. So in that sense, making a move is, like, again, we want transactions. If it makes the team better at the end of the day, that's exactly what we want. But when you're in on Juan Soto and then you go to kind of Anthony Santander and then it goes down to Teoscar Hernandez and then you sort of settle for Jurickson Profar, if that's your big move of the offseason, I just think that Toronto Blue Jays fans, maybe the expectation of the offseason will kind of be figured out as we see maybe under the Ross Atkins era or just with new management. Because the expectation is that the Toronto Blue Jays should win. They're in the top 10 teams in payroll every single season. And then they're in on all of these big moves. And then you look at it at the start of the offseason. You're like, oh, the world is our oyster here. We could get literally any player available right now. And then it gets farther and farther down the line. You talk, again, Santander, you get down the line. You get to Jurickson Profar. Who's going to say that Jurickson Profar is even going to want to come to the Toronto Blue Jays just with their lack of actually getting contracts signed?
Well, and Carter, I'll tell you what I've heard so far. It looks like Jurickson Profar wants to go back and play for the Padres. That's in like what it seems like in all the articles, all the tweets. I mean, I've scoured the internet to see what is this guy's plan. Are the Blue Jays on the radar? I don't even know. All I've really heard is that he wants to be a Padre again. So I don't know. Yes, the Blue Jays are probably talking to him and have had conversations. But you're exactly right. I just don't know how many more times this team has to settle for an option. I'm a little bit disappointed because I don't think a move will be made before New Year's, to be honest with you. So, that leaves us in limbo of, okay, you're right. We were in on Soto. Great. We didn't get him. So tough. Like, who cares? Then, okay, Santander. I said, you know what? If we get Santander and a second baseman or third baseman, that is a great backup. Teoscar Hernandez, great backup. Fantastic plan B or C or whatever you want to call it. And then you get to Jurickson Profar and you're like, well, we just missed 3 guys. So I don't know what this team has to do to make this city, this country, this team looked at in a more positive light if that is changing management. And I think that we've had these conversations that it has to happen because you see how desperate this management team looked. And I don't think you can go into an offseason looking desperate. You can go into an offseason looking like this team really wants to make a move and are willing to do so. But desperation, that never leads to anything good, Carter. That is me going to the bars and hoping for the best. That's what that is. It is complete. You know what I mean? Like, what are we doing here? I don't know. I think Jurickson Profar is a last-ditch effort. I hate to say that because maybe he'll have a great season again and I'll have to eat my words. But from what I've seen, I can't place him as a great free agent pickup. I can't. And I don't know. Let us know how you guys feel because I'm sort of out on Jurickson Profar now. I don't want to say, like, again, if they get him, okay, but I'm looking for them to get Santander. I'm looking for them to get Teoscar Hernandez. And if those 2 things don't happen, or one of those 2 things don't happen, I think this offseason's a bust. I think it's a complete bust. Even though this trade could end up being great, The Yimi Garcia move, I really love that. But I think at the end of the day, you didn't address the one big need. And I don't know how many times me and you have to come on here and have the same conversation, but they haven't made a move. And it's going to be the new year. We're going to be scrambling at the end of January trying to figure out what this team is going to look like. And I think if that's the case, wow, this team is looking rough for 2025. And I think if they're looking rough to keep Vlad, they're looking rough to keep Bo. I like me and you talked about, this is the most important offseason, I think, possibly in Blue Jays history, about the direction of this team, about keeping two superstars. And it all could go down the toilet if they don't make a big move here.
Well, and we always come back to the same thing, and it's Ross Atkins, it's the front office, and it's the expectation of this team. It'd be different if you were, I don't know, like for example, the Oakland Athletics. Are you expecting to win a World Series every year? If you're a Toronto Blue Jays fan, you're expecting to win a World Series every year? No, absolutely not. Not going to say that. But are we expecting to make the playoffs every single year? At least be competitive for the playoffs every single year? I think that's at least what Toronto Blue Jays fans are looking for here. And when Ross Atkins goes out and he says, we're ditching the safety net, we're going to completely switch up this offseason, we're going to go all in, we're going to try to win for 2025. And then the moves to win for 2025 are the moves that we're starting to see. I think a lot of Toronto Blue Jays fans, other than really Vladimir Guerrero Jr., just are wanting change. Whether that is even from our best players like Kevin Gausman, Jose Barrios, some of these guys in the starting rotation. You look at the bullpen. I mean, the bullpen for most fans could probably be completely revamped and wouldn't be too much of a problem. But when you look at some of these other guys, and you just look at the way this organization is trending and just how the last 5 years has went for Toronto Blue Jays fans, nobody wants to relive that again. Nobody. And we're on the same page. Everyone listening is probably on the same page. And your grandma's probably on the same page because it is the most obvious thing of all time. Why would you want all these expectations to have this come through fruition every single year? And the Toronto Blue Jays are going to spend. They're going to be on these big free agents. And then the offseason signings are Jurickson Profar and you trade for Andres Gimenez, which they could be good moves. It can make the team better. But when you have all this expectation for superstar players and this is what you get, it's really tough to be positive about those signings.
I hate to say this, but my Nana's a Yankees fan, so she's probably happy about it, actually. I hate to say that, but it's true. I had to go. This is completely off topic, and I'm sorry about it, but you brought it up, and it's a hilarious story. So it was her 80th birthday. Shout out Nana. It was her 80th birthday. We threw her a big thing, party, whatever. And my mom texts me, and she goes, "Hey, can you go and find a Yankees jersey that we can put 80 on the back of?" I'm like, "Mom, I'm on a Blue Jays podcast. I can't be seen outside in the world buying a Yankees jersey. It's horrendous." Sure enough, no, you're in the city. You go buy one. I found a good deal though, at least, but still, it killed me on the inside. I walked into Royal Sports and I'm like, "Do you guys got Yankees jerseys?" And they're like, "Yankees jerseys?" And they're like, "Yeah, I guess, but whatever." I'm wearing a Blue Jays hat too. They're like, "What is this guy doing?" Anyway, sorry, terrible story, but it just killed me inside.
Just absolutely flipping through teams. And as an extension of that, there's actually a wanted for a picture of Braden with that Yankees jersey. Got a reward for $500 out there. So if you ever get that picture, DM it to us, Locked On Blue Jays, to my Twitter, Carter First 2, wherever it is, we'll make sure you get that handsome reward if you can expose Braden like that. But I guess we'll end it like this. Jurickson Profar, are you happy if he comes to the Toronto Blue Jays?
I'm happy with a move now, to be honest with you. I'm happy with anything. Do I think it's the best move that they could have made? No. I think that this is not the best option out there. And I don't even know. I think I would be disappointed, to be honest with you. If Santander and Teoscar Hernandez end up signing somewhere else, I think I'm disappointed with all the hype that was around this offseason, that was around this management team about going to throw the bag at players, making a great team to bring to Toronto, and then to get Jurickson Profar, and no offense to Yimi Garcia, but those are your two moves, and then this Andres Gimenez trade, I don't know, like that swinging a pool noodle out there, I don't know. To me, that's not a win. Yes, it does make your team better in the long run, absolutely, but does it make you a World Series contender? No. Let's not kid ourselves.
Well, we look at 2024 with Jurickson Profar. Is that his peak? Maybe he gets a little bit better, but it's not going to hit 30 home runs in the season. I'll be the first one to say it. Probably not. You're probably not getting that from Jurickson Profar. But this signing is really going to come down to, obviously, the expectation. We already went over that. But it's going to come down to, what do you think Jurickson Profar truly is? Who is Jurickson Profar? Is he the player that he has been throughout the first 10 seasons of his career? Or is he the player in his 11th season of his career? Because if he puts up the same numbers and signs $12, $15 million, that's going to be a bargain for any team. If it's the Jays, if it's the Yankees, I don't care. Any team that signs Profar, if he can put up that same stat line, it's going to be a huge bargain for him. But if you get the Jurickson Profar you've seen throughout history, that's going to be a massive overpay that you're going to have to worry about on the books for, again, we've seen 2, 3, 4 years. With Profar, with the volatility of his background, you probably don't see a 4 or 5 year contract. Probably is in that 2 to 3 range. But still, you're going to have to it's a little bit of a risk, to say the least, if you're going to go all in and sign Jurickson Profar as your major move of the offseason.
Yeah, it is. Yeah. And again, at this point, I'm almost inclined to say that any move is a win, but I can't do that. I as a Blue Jays fan, I can't settle for mediocrity when we were promised World Series contention at the start of this Vlad Bo experiment. I just can't. I've loved this team for too long for me to be happy with a team fighting for a playoff spot and not doing anything with it, or not making the playoffs. It's just going to kill me.
See, I got one more thing, and then we'll head into the Andres Gimenez news. But as Toronto Blue Jays fans, aren't we just kind of mediocre? Like, we have all these expectations, but for what? Why do we have these expectations? Like, again, the GM or Ross Atkins will go out and just spew a bunch of word garbage, whatever. He'll say, obviously, what the fans want to hear. But when we go through it, and we've gone through it multiple times under the Ross Atkins era, you have 0 playoff wins. Well, why are we not just expecting that already? Like, we've seen it time and time again. That Ross Atkins will not go out and make these signings. It just seems like we're at this point being a little bit insane just to think something is going to change with Ross Atkins. But we've said this saga so many different times. All of our podcasts come back to the same point, is that when you have Ross Atkins at the manager, at the leader of your ship, the captain at the helm, things probably aren't going to go too well when they haven't gone well with the Jays. They haven't gone well with the Guardians when he was in their tenure. And just Ross Atkins usually does not turn things into gold when he touches them.
No, it's been bad. And I'm not going to go over this again, but it is frustrating. And I think as Jays fans and in the entirety, I think everybody's getting frustrated. In saying that, Andres Gimenez had some comments about the city of Toronto, about the team and everything like that. We'll come back right after this short break, tell you guys what he said. How does it make us feel as Jays fans to hear some of the things that Andres Gimenez had to say? Today's episode brought to you by FanDuel. Get ready to tackle NFL action with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook, because right now new customers can bet $5, get $150 in bonus bets if you win. I'm telling you guys, the bonus bets are where it's at. If you guys, it's free money. You might as well take advantage of it. The FanDuel Sportsbook app gives you everything you need to place live bets on the NFL all in one place. So when you get a hunch in the middle of a game, you can check out the latest stats, view live play-by-play, and so much more on the same page where you place your bets. That's a big one for me too. I like to know everything that's going on with my bet. I want to be up to date on everything going on with the live play-by-play. It's awesome. And I think make those live bets. That's where it is. I'm telling you, you can, you can see how a guy's doing. You can make your assumptions then. You don't have to go into it and think, oh, this guy's going to put up shots. This guy's going to get so many hits. You can just be like, oh, this guy's having a good game. I'm going to throw some money on him. Just visit FanDuel.com to join today. You'll get started with $150 in bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet. That's FanDuel.com. Never waste a hunch and make every moment more with FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL. All right, Carter, a couple quotes from Andres Gimenez coming to the Toronto Blue Jays. I know I have one. You have another one. I'll get us kicked off here with this one. Toronto has always been one of my favorite places to play. I love the city. I love the colors of the team. I'm very excited to be here in Canada. Very PR answer, but I think a good answer. I don't hate it. I mean, what are you expecting to say? I don't know. From what he says, good, nice. That's a good way to start things off here. He could have come and said nothing or very little. This is sort of a nice little tip of the cap. That's about it.
For me, as long as he's not going out and saying, I absolutely hate Canada, it doesn't really matter what he says. Like, as long as he's not crapping on the team, you can't really say anything really good that I'm going to be like, oh my God, I love this player, or significantly bad, unless he's like going out there, and it would be probably pretty funny, honestly. But again, that would not be a good first impression for the team. And this one I take with a little bit more value, just because this is going to be an interesting storyline for this offseason. Obviously, going into 2025 is Andres Gimenez expressed his excitement again for coming to Toronto, but kind of specified on Bo Bichette. He said, "I can't wait to start doing the double play routines with Bo." So it's going to be a little bit of a 1-2 punch, you could say, in the middle infield. Andres Gimenez, known as a very good defender, one of the best defenders in all of baseball. Bo Bichette, not known as that. That's where I'll leave that. But it's nice to see that Andres Gimenez is excited. He's saying he wants to come to the Jays. I think that's, again, very PR. Like, what else are you going to say? But again, you can't really crap on the guy for saying that, because what other options are there? That's where we're at with that.
No, but totally. That Bo Bichette piece, I think, is big, because Bo Bichette, not, like you said, not known as the best defender in the league, for sure. But having a good second baseman might make some of those plays that, Bo Bichette might try to throw away.
Especially in the middle.
Yeah, and I think that's huge, right? Turning those double plays, having a guy that can make those is massive. Getting that extra out is huge. And Bo Bichette can make good plays. I don't want to say like he's horrible. He's just not the best, I guess. And so having a guy that can sort of play off of that and help Bo, maybe even Andres Gimenez can even incite some knowledge about, okay, when you're going there, maybe try it like this. Maybe just, get me the ball and I'll do the rest. It doesn't have to be quick, because Andres Gimenez will make those plays. Again, a defensive signing, this is good. The problem is his bat's a noodle. That's the problem. So I love hearing that he's a great defender, and I love hearing that he wants to be here. I'm just waiting for that big bat to sign. That's it. So this is great, but I'm still waiting.
I think what the Toronto Blue Jays should do, if they don't have success in 2025, is sign Dalton Varsho and Andres Gimenez to both sign them for 30-year contracts. Just 30 years, $1 million, give them whatever. In 2060, it's not going to matter. And just keep these guys to just be defensive coaches throughout their entire careers. You have your infield set, you have your outfield set. This team might go 30 straight with the team Gold Glove here. Like we're getting into some crazy levels. But last thing I wanted to say, kind of backtracking a little bit to the Jurickson Profar stuff. We always talk about a power hitter. I didn't bring this up at all somehow throughout this entire episode. We always talk about power hitters and like Jurickson Profar, Santander, Teoscar Hernandez, just the overwhelming need for a power hitter. You only have one Toronto Blue Jay hit more than 20 home runs. That's Vladimir Guerrero Jr. Jurickson Profar did do that last season, but other than that, he has 2 20 home run seasons and a 15 home run season. So in that sense as well, when we're looking for power, look for players that can drive the ball out of the stadium, out of the ballpark. Jurickson Profar isn't necessarily the prototypical type that you're looking for to at least help that statistical category for the Jays this upcoming season.
Yeah, I talked about it, right? In the barrel percentage, the hard hit percentage, they're not absurd. They're very mediocre, if slightly less than mediocre. So yeah, this to me, I understand. If you want to play off of the last season, okay, I guess you like what you see. But I think this would make me very weary in 2025, this signing. So again, tell us what you guys think. Let us know on everything that we talked about with Jurickson Profar, the left field signing. Will the Jays make a signing, or are they going to just sort of leave us in limbo up until maybe the pitchers and catchers report and we'll sign some, I don't know, bum. Let us know, again, what you guys think. Hit the subscribe button if you stick around this long. We really appreciate it. Next week, Christmas. It's coming right around the corner. Santa's coming to town. Let's go. I'm excited. I have 3 days off. We got a podcast. We're gonna have a couple interesting guests over the next little bit here. It's just, got fans, everything like that. Just, we want to get not just me and Carter's take. We cover this team every day. We watch this team every day. We're up on all the news. Let's talk to a couple guys that are your normal fans that tune into the games, but they're not tuned into every single piece of information that happens. We want to sort of get their perspective as well. So we will do that. We'll see what they think, see if they can bring any new ideas to the table for this Toronto Blue Jays team. I think that's big as well. So if you guys have comments, maybe a little bit off the wall, maybe you think, okay, maybe this could go well, let us know as well. We'll be back next week. The following week is New Year's. So, wow, we got some crazy stuff going on in the next couple of weeks. It's going to be a fun time. We'll have some special episodes like we talked about out as well for the next couple of weeks. So have a good one. Have a great weekend. Take it easy, everybody, and we'll see you next week.